And to make sure that if you are going to put any questions in the chat, to please make sure that if you are asking the group and everyone to change your chat to panelists and attendees. So if you send a question to the panelists, we're the only people that see it. So if you want to have a conversation or put something out there in the chat, please put it to panelists and attendees. Thank you guys. All right, so without further ado, let me introduce these lovely speakers that we have today. April Muchmore-Vokoun is a professor for the English for Academic Purposes program at Hillsborough Community College, Dale Mabry campus in Tampa, Florida. I have visited you there, gorgeous. She has 25 years of ESL teaching experience in intensive college level and worksite study programs. She is co-author for the Great Writing Series and has presented for us nationally and internationally. Dr. Keith Folse is professor of TESOL at the University of Central Florida, where he's taught in the undergraduate TEFL program, the master's in TESOL program, and the PhD in TESOL program. He's taught English in the US, Japan, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, and his research has appeared in TESOL Quarterly, MEX TESOL Journal, TESOL Reporter, Language Teacher, Perspectives, among others. He has conducted teacher training all over the world and is the author of 78 textbooks, including our own Great Writing Series and the Grammar for Great Writing Series here at National Geographic Learning. Thank you, guys. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody from Tampa. I'm excited to be here with you and with Keith while we talk about this wonderful canvas shell that we have created.
So hello, everybody. Keith Folse here over not in Tampa, but not too far away, Orlando, Florida. Not on sabbatical, just teaching away here. So teaching lots of different kind of courses, including writing classes. And that's what April and I are going to talk about today. We assume that the people here today, for the most part, are people who have used the Great Writing Series, one of the editions maybe at some point, and are interested in how these materials could be used in an online setting using real online canvas shells in this case. So to start off today, we're going to have some polls, if we could, to find out, sort of who's going along on this ride with us today. All right. So if Sayaka could do the first poll and let you guys have a chance to tell us who you are. We'll start out by finding what types of classes are you teaching now? Because with COVID all over the United States, there's so many different possibilities. At my university, I am, what are we? We're online with Zoom, one more week. On March 16th, we start teaching face-to-face again. In theory, that's what's going to happen. I'll be there. I may be looking at a bunch of Zoom screens in a real classroom, but we'll find out. Okay, so as we see some of the votes coming in, most people here are synchronous, 4 out of 5. So 81%. And then our second highest, some people are online asynchronous as well. So you see we have a lot of variation. That's one thing to keep in mind when we talk about teaching online today. The way you teach online at your institution could be very different from 5 people seated around you or on the screen with you here today, because it's being interpreted in different ways all over the place. Psycho, could we go to the next screen, the next question we have for everybody today? And so this is a question about sort of your individual level. How comfortable are you, not with teaching online, but with creating and organizing Canvas shells? So specifically, this is talking about Canvas. Now, you may use a different LMS, a different learning management system where you are, and that's fine. I've used 2 or 3 over the years, and they all have features that are pretty similar. I haven't found one that, oh my gosh, this one does this, and because it's the only one that does that, that's why I want to use Canvas, for example. So you can see we have different levels of comfort here. Now, there's a difference between being comfortable with something and having the time to do it, right? So, I mean, I'm comfortable cooking, doesn't mean I want to cook 5 hours tonight, right? So the next thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about transition to the greats, if we could. So we'll stop sharing that one. And what we're going to do today in today's workshop is, let's see if I can, there we go. What we're going to do is, let me go over that screen for 1 second. Thank you. So what we're going to do is, this is the organization, what's happening today. We're going to look at the Great Writing Series. You probably know what it looks like right now because you have seen a recent copy of the 5th edition of one of the books, or maybe the 4th edition of one of the books. But I'm going to show you where this has come from over the years. And then April's gonna let you walk through one of the shells so you can see what we've done. And then she's also going to explain how you would want to customize your shell, because I don't know about you, I don't care what the textbook is. I mean, I've done 78 books over the years. April's done a gazillion books along with me here. And you know, I can't think of a single book, even one that we've written, that I would pick up and use from page 1 to page 300 without changing it in some way, skipping something or moving things around. So she's going to talk about customizing your shell. All right, so if we could look at the great writing the way it looks right now, and this is probably what you're familiar with. Did you know that there are actually 6 books in this series? They're numbered 1 through 5, but there is a book called Foundations before that. I call it the 0 book, but people don't like it being called the 0 book because nobody wants to study in book 0. But it's Foundations is a really cool book. So we've got Foundations of Writing. We've got book 1 and right there in the top middle, which is sentence level. We've got book 2. Great Writing 2, which is sort of bluish top right, that's paragraphs. And you see book 3, the bottom right, the one with the sort of green moss covered shells, or rocks, I should say. And that is paragraphs to essays. You see 4 on the far left bottom, the Great Wall of China. And that is essays. And then you see book 5, which is essays to a research paper. So it runs the whole gamut from basic, really basic sentences in Foundations to sentences in book 1, all the way up to research papers in book 5. Now, these books have been very popular over the years, and I want to show you what these books looked like way back when. How many of you remember, if you can put in the chat group there for joy, do any of you remember teaching with this version of the book, of these 2 books? Can you remember these, April?
It's been a while.
I have a poster of the one on the left. I have a poster of Great Paragraphs on my wall over here just to the right that I was given. But this is what the first edition, we didn't know it was the first edition. We just knew it was the book. So this was what it looked like in 1999. And we had no idea way back in 1999 that April, Elena Vestry, and I sitting in, does this sound familiar, everybody? Sitting in the workroom at our intensive English program over lunch one day. Basically, I think we were moaning about who was going to teach what in the afternoon, and it was maybe a comment of, oh my God, I have to teach topic sentences again. Does anybody have something else? I would just love to have something different today. And then one of us said to the other, well, I have a worksheet on that. And those 1999 was the days of when you actually had a worksheet, meaning a real piece of paper worksheet, not a Word doc that you could easily send via email to somebody. So we had a folder of stuff, and that folder of stuff eventually became Great Paragraphs, which you now know as Great Writing Book 2, and Great Essays, which you now know as Great Writing Book 4. All right. And then this is what it looked like in 1999. Now, fast forward a little bit. And why has this series been so popular? So this is what April and I kind of brainstorming think. The series is popular, we think, because it's real. Any teacher who teaches writing can pick up this book and teach from it. It doesn't try to be more than it is. It's teaching people how to write a sentence, how to write a paragraph, how to write an essay. So number 1, concrete kinds of writing. Number 2, we cover grammar, we cover vocabulary, we cover punctuation. We don't like books that pretend that grammar is not important. We don't like books that pretend that vocabulary is just something you pick up as a side product of doing something else. You don't accidentally get better grammar and better vocabulary. You have to try. The teaching content is easy to understand, multiple examples of everything. I think April and I counted once in book 2, there is something like 130 paragraphs. Who needs 130 paragraphs? Let's be real, right? But we have that many plus. And then on top of that, what teachers really appreciate and students appreciate is there are lots and lots of exercises, right? Lots of activities. And of course, everybody likes the great topics that we have here and the great National Geographic photos. Now, this book has a lot more than that. This is what any one book has, but the whole series has a whole lot more than that in it. And April is going to talk about that a little bit.
Exactly. And before I get started, I just want to note that if I can't see the chat on my screen, so I'm going to rely on Keith and Joy and Sayaka to help me if you're typing anything into the chat for questions. All right?
We've got it, April.
Thank you so much. As Keith said, we've been around for a while, and because we've been around for a while, there are a lot of ancillary materials that are available for the Great Series. Outside of the textbook, we have the My ELT online workbook that can be adopted along with the textbook and giving extra practice to the students. Each textbook has its own writer's notebook, but there's an online version of that. There are unit vocabulary flashcard decks, peer editing sheets. You have the exam view test generator and the classroom presentation tool, which is really, really cool. But the big idea that you've got all of this information that you can have at your fingertips for yourself and for your students is wonderful. But having it be available in a convenient format that you can use not only in a face-to-face class, but if you've had to transition into online is something that Keith and I thought a lot about. It was like, how can we help instructors get down to the job of writing? Because like you said, you might like to cook, but do you want to go into the kitchen right now and cook for 5 hours? And that's the same thing with looking at a Canvas shell. So what we want to do today is to show you what we've created as another ancillary for Canvas for the Great Writing series. Before we exit out of the PowerPoint here and take a look at the shell itself, I wanted to explain a little bit how it's organized. So right now, the Great Writing 1 shell is available, and it's organized in groups for unit photo, elements of great writing, building better vocabulary, building better sentences, timed writing, and unit assessment. So the first 5 groupings correlate directly to what is actually in the textbook. And then the unit assessment goes to the test generator. So what we'll be looking at today is, it's not a replacement for the textbook by any means, but it's definitely more than, say, a deck of flashcards or an online writer's handbook. It's a really nice base, a really nice outline that you can take and add your own information to it. Something else I wanted to point out, if you look at elements of great writing, you see brackets that say insert your personalized unit activities here. Anytime you see brackets, that's just a note to you as the instructor. Here's a place where you can insert information, or here's where you need to look in the unit for this particular activity. We suggest that before you publish these, before you make the shells live, that you go in and you edit those titles if you decide to keep them, to get rid of the bracketed information. These groupings too are just totally a result of how we organize the information. You maybe, I think about myself and my groupings. I have tests, I have quizzes, I have homework, I have journal assignments. So these are our titles for our groups. These shells are designed for you to take and use them in whatever way that you would like, what fits best for you. The nice thing about them is if you are new to Canvas and you need some scaffolding and getting your class started, you'll see when we open it up, it's there and it's ready for you to not spend time building your Canvas class, but spend time adding what you need to that shell to teach your classes. And it's also useful for those who've maybe been teaching online for 2 or 3 semesters and have a really solid Canvas presence for their writing class. You can go in and take parts of the shell and add them in whatever way you'd like to the shell that you currently have. So let's exit out of here really quickly and pop right on over to the course shell itself. Now, to access the shell, you'll need to contact your local rep and they will give you the link and the directions. You'll gather a special IMSCC file. I don't even know what those letters stand for, if we're going to be honest. It stands for here's your course cartridge. And you're going to, the directions that the rep sends you are going to be very clear. If we have a little bit of extra time at the end, I might be able to show you how that works, but you'll take that cartridge. We strongly suggest that you download it into a sandbox. Canvas is lovely. Canvas is very, very useful, but sometimes Canvas is a little glitchy. And what should happen when you download this file into Canvas, into your Canvas course, is that it automatically populates what you see right in front of you. But I've had times where Canvas will take something and overwrite something that I already have in the shell. So my suggestion to you is to work from a sandbox and then transfer from the sandbox into your student class, right? So when you open up the shell, it's already set up looking like it's ready for class. It's not 100% ready yet, but we've got you started. You have the ability to link out and include instructor biography, a personalized video or text. You can go back in and put in course introductions. Perhaps you have a syllabus scavenger hunt, and you can go in and edit this page if you want and change these links to something that's useful for you or something that you use regularly in the classroom. We have a link to the MyELT. If your institution has adopted MyELT, all your student has to do is click there and then click on this link. It'll take it out to the login, right? Now I got too many tabs going on. We have the peer editing sheets that the students can go in and open up, and there's sets that are specific to each textbook in the series. So what you're seeing here today is going to be the same for Great Writing 2, Great Writing 3, Great Writing 4, 5, and so on. We wanted to design it so that you don't have to search for a thing. If you're familiar with one shell, you're familiar with all of the shells. The Writer's Handbook is available in PDF format, and then we have a link to the unit modules. All the modules are designed the same, and we decided not to go with, I've seen some Canvas modules where the menu is a clickable photo. We decided we wanted to streamline and make everything very, very simple so that the extra power that Canvas is using is for you. You get that extra data storage. We want everything that you get to be simple. So what I'm going to show you today is what's in Unit 1 is the same as in Unit 3, same order in Unit 8. Okay, so we're going to go with Unit 3 because I really like this spread. So with the unit photo, we've got that lovely two-page spread that's in your textbook. And when you are looking at the spread in the textbook itself, you've got a black band that goes underneath this photo here. And on the left, you have your goals for the unit. And on the right, you have a free writing activity. And what we've done for this is we've just taken the free writing activity and turned it into a submittable assignment. If you'll notice, every activity has the page numbers inside the assignment and also in the assignment title. As we said before, this is not a replacement for the textbook. We work very, very hard, though, to refer back to the textbook every time we have an assignment or a quiz that the students are doing. So the points here, the submission are up to you. If you are not a fan of the text box, like some people I know, you can go in and use the edit function and change it to a Word document or a PDF. Whatever submission you would like, you can do that. You can even change this to an ungraded assignment if that is what you'd like. The control is in your hands and you pick and choose what it is that you like to have. This is directly off of that two-page spread in the textbook, but I want to go back and take a look at the warm-up activity that had appeared before it. They're both on this photo at the beginning of the unit, but Keith and I spent a lot of time brainstorming how we could create activities that give the students more access to group work. Right? You know, as instructors, that's one of the things that is cool about teaching face-to-face is watching student interaction. And it really takes a lot of time and thought to develop these types of activities on a daily basis. So we wanted to have something that was at your fingertips that you could use very quickly. So here, what the students are doing is they're taking a look at that National Geographic photo, and we've got them in part one working in their textbook. Look at the caption, look at the photo, brainstorm some vocabulary, write it down in your book, and then write 2 or 3 sentences. When you're ready, go to the bottom of the activity, click the reply button, type your sentences, underline the vocabulary words you brainstormed, and post reply. And then what they do is they take a look at their classmates' sentences, click reply under a classmate's sentences, and ask a WH question about the ideas that they see there. We've even included a direction line so that not 1 or 2 people are the only ones that are getting questions in the assignment. Look for somebody that doesn't have a question yet and ask. And then part 3, the students go back and click the reply button, and they can answer the questions that they get. This activity could be a homework assignment, the class before you're starting the new unit. You could edit the activity so that the students only see part 1 as part of that. You could have them work on part 2 as a warm-up as you're taking attendance and getting started. And then part 3 could be a homework assignment for after that next class. Or you can give it all to the students to be done before they come into class and start the unit with you on that day that you start the unit. You can customize this any way that you like.
April, can I add something?
Absolutely.
So if you think about it, everybody, let's think about this activity pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, what did we do? We were using the books. We would tell the students, open to page 58, 59, look at the picture, write 3 sentences, or whatever part 1 says here. And that would take a day, or whatever, a day in terms of students wrote it and I collected it. And then I go home, I might read them, but the students only wrote 1 time. And the goal of a writing class, if it's anything, it's to write, write, and write. I would actually argue that what we have set up here using Canvas or whatever your LMS is better than what we did pre-COVID. I would also say that post-COVID, please bring that period on, I will be doing this exact thing that I'm doing now, because this is so much more efficient than what I did before. Because I would collect papers, I might decide to let the papers go back to the students to do a second part. It just got messy. I could do it. This is so much better. They write according to the photo. They post it. Keith Folse didn't touch it. Keith Folse didn't lose their papers for a change. And then 20 students went and responded, said something, as April said, WH questions or whatever their response might be. Write something to that person, and then they have to go back and reply to that. This is a lot easier than me trying to keep up with all of these papers coming and going. And did student 15 submit, is this stage 1 or stage 2? Keith Folse is no longer involved in all of that nonsense. I'm just doing writing, writing, and writing. This, I would argue, is better than what we used to do before.
I agree. I agree. And before we go on to the next section, the one thing I wanted to show you here under edit, and I have to thank Keith for this because I think that it's a really nice option to have. If you're worried that students are just going to go on to the discussion thread and see what everybody else wrote, the way that this activity is set up is the students have to post before seeing anybody else's replies. Now, if you have a classroom where you feel like you've got students that maybe need that extra peer scaffolding, you know, you're sitting in the classroom and there are those students that are watching the beginners go to the board and write their sentences, and they're, instead of writing their own, they're copying down what they see. Or perhaps it's a student that is just not ready to fully participate in that class for that day. If you feel that that peer scaffolding is important and it's okay for the students to take a look at what their classmates are doing before they post, you would just need to go in and take this check mark off. And then that would allow students to see what others are posting before they post themselves.
But if you check that check mark, you no longer have to worry about me too.
Exactly.
Me too is no longer a gradable offense.
So going on to the next section here is elements of great writing. This is really where the meat of the instruction is in the textbook. So in Great Writing 1, it's tied in many of the units to a grammar point. In this particular unit, it's writing about the present. We are also looking in this unit at articles, an or no article. And then this is where we start combining sentences to make compound sentences. So every unit has only one activity in this section. It's not the same activity. What we've done is we've gone in and we've identified what we feel is the best practice activity for that unit. We've turned it into a gradable assignment in Canvas. So let's switch over to the student view just so that you can see what's going on here. The students, this is activity 10, page 70. It is asking the students to decide if the activity is simple or compound. Now, let's see, this is what, page 70? Yeah. So if we,
April, talk about the asterisk also.
Yes, yes. So let's look at page 70 here. The asterisk that you see right here in the title tells you, it's a reminder to you, this activity exists in the textbook. Sometimes it's going to be the exact same format as in the textbook, and sometimes it's not. For example, if you look here in the classroom presentation tool, activity 10 actually asks the students to circle the subjects and underline the verbs. Well, that's not going to happen in Canvas. But what you could do is assign this activity as a homework assignment, have the students do it at home, and then you could have the students come into the activity, say as a warm-up at the beginning of class, the next class meeting. They check their answers by taking the quiz. Shouldn't take them very long at all if they did their homework. And then you can ask the students, you know, which questions did you get wrong? And you can focus on what the questions are, the needs to know are, rather than ask, what's the answer to number 3 again? It's there and it's graded. Now you do have the option that if you don't want it linked to your grade book, you can turn it into a non-graded assignment. This edit button is definitely your friend. Feel free to have your way with the shell because you need to have what works best for you. So this would be, if you keep the same groupings, this would be a wonderful place where you're putting your links out to the web, any documents you want the students to do, any extra information that you're using to supplement your teaching activities in class. How are we doing? Do we have any questions so far?
All good so far.
Excellent.
Hey, April, can I just add, let me reiterate something that April said that's really, really important. She said this earlier, but just to make sure, she's demonstrating something from book 1 right now, and we don't want you to think this is only for book 1. Just to reiterate this, those headers, the photo, elements of great writing, building better vocabulary, building better sentences, etc. These are exactly the same in every single unit of all 6 books. So what April's showing you now is what we've done all across the board. So if you follow what she's doing today, it really will let you use the shell for any book at any level.
Exactly. And the nice thing about the activities is, while the activities are the same, the directions stay the same too. So if you're using warming up, the directions that are in unit 3 are exactly the same as the directions in unit 4, unit 7, book 8, book 5. Mm-hmm. So you have the knowledge that something random and strange isn't just going to pop up and you're going to be surprised in the middle of class. Now, a newer element to the books in the 5th edition, we did some expanded work on vocabulary, and we're really, really proud of that. And we wanted to make sure that we had a nice, healthy little package for you to work with your students with the vocabulary words from the textbook. Now, this first assignment is simply a clickable link that takes you out to the unit flashcards that have existed forever and a day. The nice thing about it is it takes them to the exact unit that they're studying that exact words to know grid that's at the beginning of that section. I was talking to a coworker at one point, and I said, sometimes we have students that really struggle with technology, and it's teaching them how to find things like this, like the flashcards, is like trying to teach a fish to run a marathon. It's just really, really difficult. So the fact that it's sitting inside of your shell makes it very useful. So let's get there. Now, what you could do if you don't want to turn this into a gradable assignment, you can go in, you can delete direction lines 2 through 4 and change it to a non-graded assignment. But if you want to make sure that the students are at least getting one touch, one practice on those words in that box, what we've done here is created a text box assignment where they choose one vocabulary word, write a sentence with it, and submit it. I gave it 1 point. Points are whatever you want them to be. It could be completed or not completed. It's up to you what you want to do. Now I'm going to forward up to the next activity, but I'm going to throw it over to Keith so that he can explain how it works.
Okay, so yeah, that flashcard, it's really convenient because I can tell you, for me as a teacher, I don't know that I have time to go find I know it's easy, but I'm busy and the students are super busy, or so they tell me. So what we're doing here is, April mentioned this words to know box. So the vocabulary section of every unit across all 6 books, at some point the words are gathered together, usually about 20, 25 words are gathered together in a box, several columns there, and it's one nice little presentation. So I'm learning German right now, and it's 100% asynchronous, not ideal by a long shot for a new language. Let me stress that, not at all, but it is what it is. And so when we get vocabulary, I get a vocabulary box and I get to stare at the words. And sometimes in some of the places, it'll let me click and have a pronunciation, but I think it would be really cool if the students actually had to do something with the words. So what happens is, this is from page 76, so it's the vocabulary box on 76, and when you click on that blue area with the button, what will happen is you will actually get somebody, it could be me, it could be April, whoever was working on that unit, who pronounces all of the words, and the words are pronounced relatively slowly, slow enough for you to repeat the words. So I'll say, number 1, admire. Number 2, conceal. There's just enough pause for you to squeeze in admire, conceal. And that's what you do. But then after you've done that, you can also click on a button that will allow you to record once you practice, or you can not practice, whatever you want, but you can click on a button and then it will allow you to record your pronunciation of those words. All right. And we have it set up where it doesn't take you outside of Canvas. This button will take you to a record feature. You click on it and you're 100%, if I can remember correctly, April, you're 100% within Canvas, right?
Yes.
Because we had tried it several different ways where it takes you outside, you have to save it and bring it back. That just sounds like a real pain in the neck to me. That's too much work for a bunch of vocabulary words. And once you've done this assignment, as a student, you might think I'm going to sit here and listen to all of those. I'm glad you think that, but I want you to think that. And I might listen to 1 or 2 just to have the threat notion in the air, but I'm going to give everybody points for having done it. Because part of, as April said, she mentioned every time you touch a word, it's getting your brain to touch a word as many times as you can. 1 touch will be pronouncing the words. And we also know that a lot of how you remember a word is how it's stored by sound. Right? Or what's that? Sounds like sound 3, something sun, right? You can't remember the word. It starts with a K, That's exactly what we want you to do. This is not going to make you know the word, but it is certainly one valuable step in learning the word. Teacher cost, 0. Have them click the button, submit it, award everybody a 3 who submitted something.
Exactly.
Or whatever points you want. April keeps saying it could be 1,000, it could be -1, whatever you want.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of Canvas, is that whatever you want to make these activities, you can make them. It's very, very easy to customize. So if we go forward, then let me click back on to the presentation tool. Right after that box of words to know, we always have the word association activity where 10 of the target vocabulary words are there on the left, and then the students have to choose from 2 on the right? Which one is most closely related? It looks a little bit different in Canvas. If we take a look at the student view, what we've done is it just looks like this. The students go in, click which ones they think the answer is, they go down, they submit their quiz. This is automatically linked to your grade book. So if you want it as a grade, it goes in as a grade. You can go in and take it out. If you just want to use it as like a homework, checking the answers activity, warming up while you're taking attendance and doing beginning of class business, you can do that. Another thing that you can, something that occurred to me recently was sometimes you might think that this 10 words is too short. You want to try all the words. You want to make it longer. Absolutely. You can open this up. You can edit it. You can add more of your own items to make it as big as you like. So that is the word associations activity. Then we go into building better sentences, which has been part of this project from the very beginning. It's moved into different places over the years. In the 4th edition, it was in the back of the book, and we wanted to show it more love. We brought it back into the units. We updated a lot of the sentence combination prompts, and we focused those prompts only on working on whatever was the element of great writing for that unit. So in this particular unit, the building better sentences is all about compound sentences. So the way that it looks in the textbook, this is what page, Keith? 79?
79, yes.
Yes. Just go forward.
There we go.
This is what it looks like in the book. And it's one activity, 3 sets of sentences. And we initially thought, well, let's just do them all at once. And then we realized, well, the chaos that would be associated with trying to get that done with a group of students it's just too much. So what we ended up doing to control the student information better is to divide them into discussion activities for each one of these. So each one of these in all of the units has its own discussion board activity. So let's take a look here. So what it's asking the students to do is to open up their textbook, page 79, go to activity 24. We want them to go in. They spent a lot of money on that book. We want them to use it. Go to page 79, look at those sentences, question number 1. They have the opportunity to have a pencil in their hand, work on it in the textbook, and then when they're ready, they can go down, click reply, post their sentence. We've got this checked also that they've got to post first before they can look at their classmates. And then after they've posted, they can go read some of their classmates' answers to see how are they the same? Are they different? Choose a classmate if you have time. And under their box, write a short compliment on their sentence. This is really where the art of writing comes to the fore, because there's generally not just one way to combine the sentences that are in that section. And the students are always really surprised at how you can write something so differently and it's all correct, generally, right?
Right.
And then what happens, we've also put in a section where the students can click under the reply button under the instructions if they notice a common theme. You know, we were practicing compound sentences and half the students forgot to put the comma, or they put the comma in the wrong place. And you as the instructor, if you notice that the students are not doing this themselves, you have the ability to pop that comment in there and then use that as a springboard into whatever you're going to be teaching and working on at that moment. This could be done as homework. It could be done as a warm-up at the beginning of class. If you have a particularly long class and you have a small break in the middle, it could be something that students come back to as a focuser to get them back into the groove of studying again before you continue on with whatever lesson you had worked on in the beginning.
Hey, April, one thing, since April had some activities that were called a quiz, and you might have seen that and thought, well, gee, I don't think that's a quiz in the traditional sense. Or is this what we're doing now? Is this really a discussion in the traditional sense? For example, I didn't ask for your opinion about, you know, our governor, and then, you know, you can post an opinion there. Why would that be a discussion? And for those who indicated that you were not so familiar or so comfortable with Canvas yet, Canvas has a limited number of options. There's a quiz option, there's an assignment option, there's a discussion option, there are certain categories. And within Canvas or Blackboard or whatever your LMS is, those are treated a certain way. They're scoreable or not. You can force a date when it's due or not. You can make somebody do it 3 times if you want. And so we put this as a discussion. You may not think it's a discussion in the traditional sense because we're not asking for your opinions about a topic, but discussion here, for those who aren't so familiar with Canvas yet, merely indicates that there's a wall where people post things, and it's not one, they're not 20 individual assignments. They're all visible to everybody. And then if the teacher sets it up a certain way, as April has indicated here, anybody can reply to anything, right? And that's the joy of the discussion. Also, like the quiz, I wouldn't call that a quiz. When you call it a quiz, it forces you to give a due date. Once you give a due date, it populates the student's to-do list. I'm in that German class right now that's 100% online. This is true, I didn't know my professor had done his beautifully made modules until week 4, because I just thought, and I'm one of the better students, I wasn't even paying attention to what she had told us she had there. All I heard was and saw was that to-do list. So quizzes and discussions with due dates populate due dates, and that's crucial for students, whether we like it or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the nice thing, just circling back, is that you can do one of these activities. You can do all 3 of these activities online. You can do them all at once. You can space them out through the unit. It's up to you how you want to handle it. And then the last in-book section group that we have is the timed writing, and it got a bit of an update too. This is page 81. In previous editions, it was just a timed writing prompt, and it said, hey, you know, get out a piece of paper. Your teacher's going to make you write for 20 minutes, and you're going to turn the paper in. What we did in the 5th edition is we added a tip. And this is a low-level tip on timed writing, but it's really timely. I generally have 1 or 2 students that are still listing sentences into the middle of the semester. So it's important that your writing looks like a paragraph. And then whatever else you want to add on to your lesson, maybe a review of simple present tense or reminders on compounding sentences, whatever it is that you want them to produce when they do the writing sample, you'll be able to do that in your class. And then where they would look at the prompt here in the book and write on a piece of paper, in the shell, what they'll do is they'll open up this timed writing activity. It's exactly what's in the book, right? In this case though, because we've used the quiz function, it's allowing us to time, right? You've got 25 minutes to take it. Only open the assignment when you can finish without taking a break. And thank you to Jean Danick for that. What a very nice addition to the directions. Hopefully that'll stop some students from clicking before they're supposed to, right? So they take the quiz, it tells them what you want them to have in the activity, click the button, the instructions are still there, and then they get to see the prompt. Some people prefer to travel with a companion, others alone. Which do you prefer? I have it as, it's set as a text box that is changeable to a Word document or however you want the students to submit. What I do like about this as an instructor is that Canvas gives you a running time. You know, I've got 24 minutes and 31 seconds left. As a student who doesn't like timed writing, I don't perform well on timed writing at all. I love this button. It goes away. So now I can take all of my focus and reduce my anxiety, put it down here, and then when I need to see how much time I've got left, I can click back up there again. It's a really nice option. Now you might think, 25 minutes, my students are still working on keyboarding activities at this level. You can go in and change the time, add 10 more minutes to account for keyboarding skills. That's up to you. You know, change the points and anything it is that you would like. So now we're through with what is actually in the textbook itself, and we're going out to test generator, exam view. And I remember when we first went online, spending hours making tests and quizzes that students spent minutes finishing, right? And so what we wanted to do was to take that part of test creation off your plate. These quizzes and tests may not match exactly what you need, but you've got the shell, you've got the start. And what we did is we went in and we gathered all into test generator. We gathered all of the items for unit 3, and any of the items that were related to the words to know, the vocabulary, went into the vocabulary quiz. And the vocabulary quizzes in this shell, all of them, all 8 of them, one for each unit, are completely graded by the computer, right? So if you go in, take a look at the student view, take the quiz, we've got matching, fill in the blanks, which I messed around with. I took the quizzes, and it's pretty flexible if you put in a space before or a space after the word, or you capitalize wrong. It is not flexible about spelling. So if you have a class where you're flexible about spelling, then you're going to need to go in and double check these fill in the blanks, but the words are spelled here. If you want to be totally hands-off and have it automatically populate into your gradebook without looking at it, except to assess how the students did, you can change those activities easily to a multiple choice, right? Then any of the other items that were left from test generator were dealt with the elements section of the unit, and that went into the unit exam. We can see here that it's 60 points. I believe it has 35 actual questions. And when you take a look at the test, you'll be able to tell, is it too big? Is it too small? Do you even like the questions that are included? Are you going to have to do some tweaking? Oh, I got to reset the student. I was messing around earlier today. There we go. Oh, I forgot it does that. My apologies.
Okay.
April, could I ask you a quick question? We
Absolutely.
have a few questions in the box.
Yes.
Okay. Do the quizzes look the same for each student, or are there test banks, alternative versions, or question orders? Like, can you randomize it?
You can randomize it within the vocabulary quiz itself so that the answers come up in a different order, but there is not a test bank. Simply because both Keith and I have had issues with the Canvas test bank where we've created quizzes and it just doesn't work. And we wanted to make something that was as bulletproof as we possibly could make it. So yeah, inside here in the editing, you can, right now it's set to no for shuffle answers, but you could go in and edit and change that.
Thank you. Next question. In the fall semester, Susan ended up having students do their timed writing and assignments, which allowed her to more easily make comments when they did it as a quiz. Is that different now using the shell?
Can you repeat that for me?
Yes. In fall semester, she ended up having students do their timed writing in assignments, which allowed her to more easily make comments than when they did it as a quiz. Is that different now using a shell?
In the shell, the timed writing is as a quiz simply because I wanted to make it a timed format. So what you could do is, I'm pretty sure you can go in and you can change it to a, let's edit it. Pretty sure you can change, because I know that the text box is hard for students to see comments and hard to grade.
I think what you would do, April, it wouldn't be hard. It would take some work, but because this book has 8 units, so we're talking about doing this 8 times. You would just go into the actual box where you have the content that you have in the box there, choose all, choose copy and paste. Then you would go and create an assignment if you want this to be an assignment, and then you just paste into the assignment. I think it'll be pretty easy. If it were a multiple choice format, it would require you to do question by question. First, you wouldn't do that, but it would be question by question by question. This is only one prompt. It's easily doable.
Yeah. Thank you, Keith. Yeah. Now that you've said that, you would just copy and paste into assignments, because then you could have them submit a Word document.
And part of, I understand the question, Joy. The question has to do with the modes of interaction that a teacher can have in marking the paper in some way, and that does get a little complex as to who can do what where. And I'm not an expert on that, to be honest. So if any of our audience members want to chime in with, I've used XYZ in Canvas and I thought it was the best way to mark papers, then Joy, would you then make a brand new slide for that? Because we want to know that information. Seriously. So no, but it's true, because you've got, none of us start out as experts in Canvas, right? There was a pandemic, and by gosh, use Canvas. And so it started up. But I hadn't heard the big push that I see now for teachers clamoring. Clamoring is the verb, clamoring to know what are the 3 best ways to mark a paper in an online setting. So we're all ears if anybody has any ideas. Totally.
Absolutely.
The last question is the shuffle feature only shuffles the answers, right? Not the order of the questions. Do you guys know?
I think it's just the answer. You know what? I don't know. Can somebody throw that up in the box?
I do. So what will happen is you can only shuffle, my understanding is you can only shuffle the questions if the questions were originally in a question bank.
Yeah.
So where you could move things around, because it would randomly, because I use that on my midterm exams when I don't want to have to give a midterm a second time. So it's a pain. It's easier to make 50 questions, but when you put 50 questions in the bank, you have to give each one a title so you can remember what it is, right? Because it can't be just number 36, because it won't be 36 anymore. It has to be the question with the indirect and the direct object with give or gave in the past. It's kind of hard, and you can say, I'll choose any 10 of these from the 50, and every time you take the test you'll get 10 different ones, and within that, as April demonstrated, you could have those set to where they would randomly randomize the answers as well. We don't have that setting that way right now, so question 6 will be question 6 every time. We don't have any activities that are super long. I mean, what is the vocabulary is 10, anything over 10 items, April?
Only in the test.
Oh, the test came from the test generator. We don't control that anyway. Yeah, so the 10 items would need to go into a bank, and the questions can be pulled from that. So the good news is you won't have to type each one. You could copy. I'll admit it's a pain in the neck. You have to go in and copy each one and paste it into another question box, if you will. If you've set it. Sounds like many people have set up questions already. How difficult and how time consuming it is. A simple 10-item multiple choice test can take you, typing it up takes nothing, but you're not typing it. You're typing it in 60 different little boxes, right? That's the difficult part. So randomizing the answers might be the best option right now.
Thank you so much for answering those questions. I think that seems to be it for now. We have about 5 minutes left, so I will let you wrap up.
All right. Well,
but I don't think we have any more at the moment.
Okay. All right. Well, people can chime in as things occur to them. One of the things that I wanted to show, and Keith and I wanted to share with you, is especially if you're new to Canvas, you are not alone. And even if you're not new to Canvas, you are not alone. It can be really frustrating to learn a new learning management system, to work your heart out on an activity or a module, and then you get into class and something doesn't work. Right. And so the nice thing is that there's help that is available, right? Canvas has its community forum, which you can go in and you can search for information where you might get a discussion thread, or there might be a video on how to do X, Y, or Z. And then I always suggest that people take a look at Canvas Commons. And I think that we as instructors should start pushing our good lessons, our good modules and assignments that are like, this is a golden activity, share it to Canvas Commons so that other instructors can benefit from that. The more we work together as a group, the less we actually have to work individually. And then Keith told me about these Facebook groups. If you're on Facebook, you need to become a member of Teachers Using Canvas and absolutely teaching synchronously online using Zoom in Korea. It's not just about using Zoom in Korea. You get some amazing teaching ideas from these platforms. And you're going to see questions that come up saying, Canvas just had an update and now it's doing this and I don't know how to fix it. And somebody, you know, on the other side of the country is going to say, oh, it happened to me and this is what you do. So I really strongly suggest that you take a look at these resources, incorporate them into using Canvas. Keith, is there anything you want to add about these?
I would agree. You know, this is what, if you've watched the Facebook commercials on TV, they're no longer promoting it to post your favorite food picture, and we're not traveling. So, and people don't have cats anymore, it seems like. I don't know. But what people do have is problems doing a certain thing. And there are so many groups on there. One of them, or there are several, as April pointed out, I belong to two for K-12 teachers, because K-12 teachers seem to have a lot more assignments. And I just like they seem to be more nitty gritty. You know, April mentioned the community for Canvas, and that reminds me at my university, I'm sure April, you have the same thing. There's a tech department, right? Mm-hmm. When I can't do something, I have to put in what they call it, file a note or a paper,
a report,
a ticket. I have to create a ticket. And then, oh my God, there goes ticket. What number am I? Well, is this the first week of the semester? They'll never get back to me. And then by the time they get back to me, I've forgotten my question. But they don't understand it from a teacher point of view. They just understand it from a technical point of view. Well, that's because you tried to do X and Y. So, well, that's because I wanted to do that. I need someone to tell me, how do I do X and Y? Not that I can't do it. So but you're not thinking like a teacher. When you go to these Facebook groups, these are teachers, and they're not going to talk nasty to you. What I like about the Korea group, why I told it to April, was nobody makes me feel stupid. I am asking stupid questions. I know we say there's no such thing as a stupid question, but you know there are, and we're asking them, and yet they just, well, you know that green button in the top right? Oh my God, yes, the one that clearly says go, or something like that. This has been just a miracle for me to be in these groups and hang out with other teachers, commiserate, and find out what are 3 ways of marking a paper. They'll tell you what they are, real ways, not just what the machine could do, but what they've used and found to be successful. And I appreciate these tremendously.
Right. So yeah, definitely take a look at those. And then if you have any questions about the shell, after you've reached out to your rep, asked to get a copy of how do you get the Dropbox, what are the directions for downloading it into a sandbox. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to either Keith or myself. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. We're really proud of this Canvas shell, and we hope that that it helps take some of the stress of materials creation off your plate so that you can focus on your students, on lesson planning, and, you know, maybe having a life outside of the classroom, right?
Yeah, feel free, April, let me just reiterate. Let us know if you have any questions. Also, Joy, can April and I please get a copy of the chat later?
Absolutely.
Because I want to know what people came up with that might be better than what we're doing.
Sounds good. And right now you guys are getting a lot of thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for coming to the webinar. And thank you so much to Joy and Sayaka and everyone at National Geographic who's worked so hard to make today happen.
Much appreciated, everybody. Thank you.
We appreciate both of you so much and all of your hard work and these amazing shells and the amazing books. And we appreciate all of you out there for attending today. So thank you. You will receive the recording in about 5 business days to your email that you registered with. And feel free to reach out to your sales rep for more information on these lovely shells. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend.